Hi, my name is Daudi Mugari and this is Business Mike episode 19. My guest today is Moses Engwau. He's the Executive Director of the Business Development Center in Uganda, which helps entrepreneurs start and grow successful businesses. In this episode, Moses shares some entrepreneurial advice from his experience. All this and more next on Business Mike. Thank you so much, Moses, for joining us today on Business Mike. Could you briefly tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name is Moses Engwau, and I am the Executive Director at the Business Development Center. The Business Development Center is a place that we train and nurture entrepreneurs to start a business or grow an existing small business. But beyond that, we also bring global business acumen into the country, into various organizations to help them grow their businesses, really achieve efficiency, operational efficiency, and improve on their bottom line, on their profits.
I must say, before we started this interview, I had an opportunity to have a look and see what it is that you do. And I must say the level of engagement you have with the students is unlike anything I've seen before. What is it about the Business Development Center that stands out from other institutions?
I would say two things, Daudi. One is that we believe that training is good, but training is not enough. As such, we designed the program to offer coaching post-training. And so we offer the students business coaching and what we call just-in-time training for the level of operation they are at. So the entrepreneur who is starting has different challenges from those who have achieved some level of operation. And that also has differences from the company that has built a bigger customer base. So we offer coaching at all levels.
And the students that were being given a session today, I noticed you told me that they actually came back. So once you go through a course here and you're done with it, you're actually free to come back and at no extra cost. Perhaps if you have a challenge, express it and get some guidance. Is that true?
That's true. We offer continual coaching, and the students that have gone through our program are welcome back anytime on appointment with any of our coaches that they believe would help them best at that point.
And having trained so many entrepreneurs at the Business Development Center, what would you say are some of the common issues that entrepreneurs, particularly in Uganda, struggle with?
That's a good question, Daudi. I would say that I have seen quite a few challenges. One of them being that there's a lack of generational thinking, and that entrepreneurs are in a hurry to do business for now. And part of our training is to help them create systems and put the right people in the right places to help them achieve long-term goals. A second challenge, I would say, is that a lot of the goals are clear in the mind of the entrepreneur, but they don't communicate them enough or always to their team. If we look back to the most successful businesses, or indeed individuals, they not only understood their goal, they continually articulated it to their team, and they found the right people to accomplish those goals.
What would you say are the three things that a business cannot live without?
I think that all businesses need to understand why they exist and who they are serving, and find the right people to deliver what they create to who they are serving. To understand that goal is very important, in my opinion. Why do we even exist? For who? And how can we serve them?
Now, I've interviewed quite a number of entrepreneurs, and I always ask them this question: what part of being a business owner took you by surprise? And I've noticed that for majority of them, the key element that took them by surprise, the responsibility that they had to do that they didn't expect, was the bookkeeping part of it. This is something that people do not factor in when they are starting a business. And I would like to know from your experience, is it a similar trend in the classes you have?
Yes. If I were to fall back to your previous question, actually, I would say that keep books of accounts, keep books of accounts, keep books of accounts. understand what the numbers are telling you about your customer, about your service, about your product. In the case of Uganda, it's reported that many businesses are actually closing not because they didn't do business, but because they failed to manage their cash flows. They made money, the money stayed out there, and they got trapped and couldn't operate. And so they were forced to close. That is a deep lack of appreciation for the financial records and what the financial records are telling you.
But this isn't just a Ugandan problem. If you look across the board, it's something that cuts across, because for someone who wants to start a business, they're so anxious to get it out there, to build a brand, and they ignore that element of it, which I feel is really, really crucial. So what tips would you give someone? Let's say someone is listening to this and they want to sell a particular product. What advice would you give them with regards to the bookkeeping that they can take? Would you suggest they find someone with those expertise skills and bring them on board, or are there courses they can take up themselves?
The entrepreneur has two levels of responsibility. One is to understand their strength and the lack of strength in whatever area of the business model. And two, either to develop their strength in the areas of weakness or to complement their strength by finding somebody with that competence. It might be a hire or a consultant. But to fall back to your question, I think that if the entrepreneur decided from the very word go that every expense they will incur will come out of the bank for a particular purpose, and every revenue they will generate must go through the bank, then they are keeping a set of records already. That is the distinct thing that every entrepreneur has to put in their head from the word go.
How long has the BDC been in existence?
We've been here for the last 3 years.
Last 3 years. And through that time, what case studies can you give us of people that have come in when they're at the level of starting their business and have now gone on to put out some really good brands?
That's a good question. I will tell you that we originally thought that we might attract more people at idea level that want to start a business. It might surprise you that 85% of the people who enroll at the BDC are those who already started a business.
Really?
Yes. And this is why they have burned their hands and know the importance of training in developing or in growing a successful business. To come back to your question, I'll give you answers in two different areas. One, those who have grown their businesses, who are the majority, who went and implemented what they learned, and chiefly, that is to build systems, to put the right people to fulfill certain roles and functions, and to continually communicate the goal to those people. I have seen that the people who are already operating a business are more diligent in terms of keeping time to come to class, in terms of completing their assignments, and in terms of the grades they attain. That's not to talk down the people who have an idea. The challenges of starting the business are different, and I have seen successful stories. One of the ladies you met was just implementing her idea, and that was her business plan in the class, and she's implementing it and is facing certain she has certain opportunities coming her way, and she wants to understand those opportunities before accepting them.
What for you was the hardest decision as an entrepreneur?
To stop everything else I was doing to start this business.
Oh, what was that? Can you expound on that?
When I was younger, I started a few businesses that I lost because I didn't understand then that business is serious business. And so I did not give the businesses the time that they required. I did not communicate the goal. I did not ensure that there was accountability for time. Knowing what I know now and looking back, of course I had to lose the businesses. So I fell back to semi-employment I got back into a salaried job. Even if I was part of the creation of that, it became enjoyable to earn money again more regularly. To answer you, once that started being sustainable and having to move and leave it and start a new venture with very unpredictable future was hard. You have to explain that to your family. You have to explain that to your friends. And if they had seen you at a low moment in your life at one point, they just might not understand you again, choosing that path. Yeah.
Well, that's a difficult decision many entrepreneurs make as well. Because I personally, as well, it's on my About page, I've started very many businesses. And just like you, I didn't have the right preparation. It's almost as if I jumped on a ship but forgot the compass. So you just don't know where you're going, and all of a sudden the ship might capsize. You'll be lucky if you make it to the destination extremely, but if you're not prepared or if you don't have the right tools in place, then things will go wrong. But I know for sure that as an entrepreneur, it might be a bit lonely out there, and it's really important to mingle and meet other entrepreneurs to share ideas and basically just get advice and inspiration to keep moving on, because sometimes it's tempting to give up, which is why I think your institution here is doing a brilliant job of bringing them together, creating a sort of hub. And I would encourage any Ugandan entrepreneurs who are listening to this to give it a try and see how this can actually help them.
It's interesting you mentioned the compass. Because what does a compass do actually? It gives you the true north.
That's right.
And for me, the true north of businesses is the goal, a clear goal. And everything else is measured against that.
If you were given the opportunity to go back in time to a moment when you were 18 years old, what book would you give yourself to read, and what entrepreneurial habit would you try and impart on yourself? Just one particular habit.
Do you mean a business book?
Or it can be anything.
Well, books serve different purposes. You have spiritual books, you have business books, you have leadership books, and I would perhaps get one from each of those. But if we narrow down to a business book, I might read Startup Nation, the story of Israel's economic miracle, I think written by two guys, Dan and Dan somebody and Saul somebody. But I might also read Business Models by Alexander, I can't pronounce the second name.
What habit would you impart on yourself, entrepreneurial habit?
I would mind my business. I would allocate time to it and think about it and mind it. I lost my two businesses because I didn't mind them. I did not allocate time to the business. I handed it over to people to run it on my behalf, and they run it down. So the trait I would cultivate is to allocate time every day to mind my business.
Apart from the Business Development Center, what other resources or websites or books can people who are just starting their businesses, or those who have just gotten into their businesses, what resources are out there that they can use to benefit them?
There are various resources on various platforms, but I do recommend the Business Models by Alexander Oliesta. I can't quite pronounce his name. I would recommend that they find resources on YouTube to address the particular need. There are tons of resources on YouTube. But nothing can replace the habit of self-study, traditional self-study. Identify a good book, walk through it, and discuss it with a friend. And develop your action plan. In essence, what you're doing is developing a business action plan.
How can people get involved with the Business Center in terms of participating? I noticed on your website you had opportunities for people to come and volunteer. How can they get that done?
People can participate with the center at various levels. One of them could be become a mentor to a young business person, a young entrepreneur, or to enroll for the course or courses we offer. Come to our open houses and experience what training our entrepreneurs are gaining. come to our business pitch nights.
When are those?
Well, we do those 3 times a year, and that's after every group that we call our cohort has successfully gone through their training. And so we organize pitch evenings that we invite the public to, and they help us decide who has pitched the best.
And these are open to the public. Anyone can come and attend this?
Yes, and these are open to the public.
There's also something else you mentioned during our pre-interview chat about partnering with Stanford University. And you mentioned that there will be a particular seminar to take place?
Yes. So the Business Development Center is very privileged to partner with Connect to Implement, which is a project of the World Bank. They have the goal to nurture entrepreneurs, and the World Bank connected us with Stanford Business School. And Stanford University's Business School, or School of Design Thinking, is best known for a methodology or a boot camp they run that is called Design Thinking. And so we are privileged to host them in August of 2015, starting the 10th to the 14th. We'll be running a design thinking camp, which helps entrepreneurs, ideate, prototype, and test out the market. And you're welcome to attend that event. Yes. Yeah.
If this were your podcast show and the tables were turned, if you could ask me one question, what would it be?
Well, if the chairs were reversed, I might ask you, how do you make money from these interviews? How are you paying your bills?
Well, at the moment, this particular project of mine isn't paying the bills. It is one that I am taking on as I have another full-time job. And it is that full-time job that's financing this. However, in the long term, and I'm looking at about maybe 8 months, my goal is to build an audience by providing value from these interviews in order to attract sponsors to help me finance the costs of this podcast, as well as to give me some money to make up for the time I've spent in the editing, the transportation to meet the customers, the paying of the softwares to run the whole thing, and so on and so forth. So just as we're discussing in the pre-interview chat, it's about creating that value and then giving it to people and making sure that the revenues outweigh the costs. So my long-term vision is to build an audience that is accustomed to getting value from me. But in a field like this, it takes time. It's not something that will happen immediately unless you get perhaps a guest with a really, really huge following or something of the sort. So for now, it's building that audience. And in the long term, as I mentioned to you, start something very similar to what you're doing as basically a hub that brings together entrepreneurs and helps them figure out some of the challenges they're facing, because sometimes you need that communal encouragement to help you get going. And masterminds are something that are really important, and it's not a culture that we really have here in this country. So things like what you're doing and stuff like what I want to do will definitely help people who are into business or who want to grow learn. And it's something that I want to do both physically and online. I would definitely like to build an online community. That way you can bring in people from all countries. So as far as the revenue plan goes, that's basically where I stand at the moment.
Well, thank you for letting me know.
How can people get in touch with the Business Development Center in terms of email, website, or social media?
Well, you can find us, we have web presence. You can find us on our website, www.bdcuganda.com. We are on Facebook. We are also on Twitter.
Thank you so much for your time, Moses.
Thank you so much too.
Thank you so much for listening to Business Mike today. And if you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. For all the links and resources mentioned in this particular episode, simply type the name Moses into the search bar to access his show notes page. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care.